Streaming from Oklahoma's own digital studio, this is Stephen Nehrenz with This Week in Weather.
Hey y'all, Meteorologist Stephen Nehrenz here. This Week in Weather, episode 4. Hope you and your family had a nice, restful Memorial Day weekend. Had some chance to reflect on what Memorial Day is truly all about. And you know, from a weather-related standpoint, unfortunately, the weather did not play nice for a lot of Memorial Day weekend. As you're well aware, we're going to kind of go over some of what the aftermath was of that here in just a second. Of course, as we start things off, the thing I try to start with and remind you with This Week in Weather, if you have questions, comments, suggestions about what you would like to see here, there's my email address on the screen, stephen.nehrenz@griffin.news, also my Facebook page link. And also, as these get posted, both on our website but also on our YouTube channel, I've been following that and been seeing more and more comments on YouTube each week, which is great because of course we're monitoring that as well as for comments, suggestions, whatever it may be, feedback on This Week in Weather. So keep them coming as we continue to roll right along with now, like I said, episode 4 of This Week in Weather. And again, as you were well aware, it was a very busy week or weekend in weather across green country this time around, particularly from a rainfall standpoint, from really most of Memorial Day weekend. Again, there were some pauses and breaks, so at least didn't rain from start to finish, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Memorial Day, Monday, but there was rain and there was a heck of a lot of it. Again, I would say, as you can see the numbers on the screen there, 3 inches to 5 inches of rain was pretty common area-wide. Now, there were some spots that had a little bit less in our far western counties, our far northern counties. Tulsa Metro, though, in Tulsa, I should say the official number, just over 6.5 inches of rain through the weekend. And again, a lot of these numbers here on the map are from the Oklahoma MesNet site-specific. So, if you were keeping track in your own backyard, your numbers may differ a little bit, but goes to show you how heavy the rains were area-wide. Wilburton, the big winner, if you want to call it that, over 7.5 inches of rain through Memorial Day weekend. So obviously no surprise that flooding was a big-time problem. Once again, still going to be a lingering problem over the next several days as far as river levels, but especially lake levels. We've had rivers that went up quickly over the Memorial Day weekend that will start to subside or come down mostly as the week goes along. But those lake levels going back up after we had about a 3-week stretch or so where there was a lot of releases getting those lake levels back to normal after the record wet April that we had. Well, now we're kind of reversing the trend again, and lake levels are back up, and some of them have climbed several feet in just the span of a few days. Keystone Lake, 8.5 feet above normal, and still climbing. You can see on the screen there, most lakes, at least as of recording time here, still climbing. A few are starting to level out a little bit. Skytook Lake, you were almost back to normal, and now you're back over 5 feet above normal. Fort Gibson Lake, about 15 feet above normal. I'll go full screen on that so you can see all the numbers there. There will, again, much like the last few weeks, be more big water releases in the days ahead once these lake levels kind of level off, for lack of a better word. But just kind of an early heads up if you're making lake plans this upcoming weekend. So we wrap up May and get into the first couple days of June. We're back into that trend where you got to be careful if you're going to be out on the water, if you're going to be boating, because with the lake levels coming back up, some of that debris from kind of the rises and falls of the lakes will likely get kind of stirred up again and could cause issues for boaters and for boating safety. So I want you to be aware of that if you're kind of already planning ahead for the lake weekend. We'll talk about the weekend weather in a few minutes, which I do think is going to be better than what we had weather-wise over Memorial Day weekend. Of course, we did add in quite a few tornadoes over the last. This goes back to about a week and a half ago, before Memorial Day. As you know, we had a stretch specifically back on May 19th where we had quite a few tornadoes. And the official count, now this is still going to be amended and added to, and this is for the entire state of Oklahoma, 15 tornadoes and counting for the month of May. And again, the majority of those came back on May 19th. There were several more off in northwest Arkansas as well. And again, there still are some damage surveys that are being done on the May 19th tornado. Some of the initial data, a lot of these have been mostly finalized, and many of those tornadoes were EF1s, a couple were EF2s. And you notice the two up at the top, Pittsburgh County, which was, that tornado actually started south in portions of Atoka County, Cole County. It came into southern Pittsburgh County from Kiowa to the community of Pittsburgh to Blanco, before it kind of fizzled out near Hartshorn and then spun back up again as a new tornado near and east of Hartshorn. You see those initial ratings, Pittsburgh County EF2 so far, Hartshorn EF1 so far, because those damage surveys are still being done, particularly the one in Pittsburgh County. I mean, this can happen sometimes, is that the surveys will take several days, and that's if the weather is good. As you're well aware, the National Weather Service, the crews were working their tails off to get all these surveys, storm surveys done last week. And then we had more storms come in during the Memorial Day weekend, which kind of causes more delays on that. So they're going to continue to work on in particular, the Pittsburgh County, Southern Pittsburgh County tornado, the biggest one that we had. You can kind of see some of the initial stats there on the screen. Like I said, rating of at least EF2 so far. Could possibly go higher than that, but in particular, you notice the maximum width. They have said that they do believe that at its maximum width, it was more than a mile wide at times in southern Pittsburgh County. Now again, the exact details will still be finalized in the days ahead as far as how long it was on the ground, the exact width, but it was large. And also note, you kind of see the last little line there of text on the screen, that other tornadoes did occur in Pittsburgh County with that supercell. As the main one kind of spun out, there were a couple other areas where at least brief tornadoes occurred. And again, as that first main tornado kind of cycled, spun out near Hartshorn, it spun back up again near and east of Hartshorn. So those are a couple of tornado tracks. They're still being finalized. We'll get more data on that in the days ahead. The weather pattern that we're in now, as we kind of look forward here into this week after Memorial Day, is still unsettled. It's not just a huge severe weather maker as far as organized severe weather is concerned. You can see on the screen there, the water vapor satellites show that a lot to give you kind of a look at those upper level storm systems. Big upper level low spinning across the northern United States. And notice it's not moving a whole lot. It's not stationary technically, but it's moving barely. And there are little kind of disturbances, upper level systems swinging around the base of that upper level low that are still influencing our weather pattern over the next few days. Take this full screen again for a minute so you can kind of see the big picture of the jet stream flow here a little bit better. What I will note is that this is a setup where the upper level winds, those jet stream upper level winds, are a little bit weaker than they often are during the month of May. When we get kind of those big organized severe weather setups. That does not mean that we won't have severe weather. But what's going to happen is, as we go through the week, that upper level low is going to go through the Midwest. Kind of one piece of energy breaks off and goes to the east. The trough itself, kind of the base of the trough, redevelops and drops south. So Wednesday night into Thursday, as that starts to happen, that upper level low drops south. Another complex of thunderstorms develops across the Central Plains and drops south. More than likely, that's going to be kind of a wind and hail and heavy rain threat. Again, because of the upper level setup, it's not one that's just super conducive to bringing as much of a tornado threat, which of course, I don't think anyone will complain about that. Of course, it is still late May. We still have to watch every setup, very, very closely. But it looks like that the system that swings in storms, area storms, that swings in from late Wednesday night through Thursday morning, probably more of a squall line feature, which means it will have some damaging wind potential and some additional heavy rains. And we're not talking like 3-4 inches of rain, but there could be another quick inch of rain or so under this area of storms Wednesday night and Thursday morning. After that drops to the south, we develop more of a northwest flow pattern, at least for a few days, in the upper levels of the atmosphere. Again, not a setup that's conducive to organized severe weather around here. And in fact, it looks like we've been kind of waiting on this pattern for days and days now to set up to quiet us down a little bit. It looks like that northwest flow is strong enough by the end of the week that we get from the second half of Thursday into Friday. Nice quiet weather as we start into the upcoming weekend. Upper level ridge building off to our west. Again, that setup, that jet stream setup right there, kind of keeps the big severe weather parameters away from us. And then for the first half of the weekend, now notice what happens again. I've got this the future view, the big picture going from Saturday into Sunday, this upcoming weekend. What can also happen in that northwest flow pattern, again, not a classic severe weather setup as far as tornadic setup goes, but we can have quick moving storm systems that come flying from north to south in that strong northwesterly flow that can bring more storm complexes back into the region, kind of those squall line features. And we're going to, again, as I've stopped the clock here, this would be like Saturday night into Sunday morning, thinking that there will be, at least the way it's trending right now, another complex of storms that comes driving from north to south across the area. Again, there will be the potential for some severe weather with that. And as we head into early next week, kind of waiting on that upper level ridge to start pushing the main jet stream flow away from us, right? Getting the classic severe weather season out of here, starting to get early summertime here. It'll happen eventually, but it's kind of taking its sweet time. Early next week, still a setup where the jet stream flow is strong enough that there's more storm chances at least nearby. First half of next week, those first few days of June into Monday and Tuesday. And then beyond that, again, the upper level ridge is trying to push the jet stream, the main upper level wind flow further to the north. That's typically what happens this time of year as we round out May and we head into the first part of June. That's why the main severe weather season, for lack of a better word, starts to wind down as we head into June here in Oklahoma. It doesn't mean it just goes away completely, but as far as kind of the daily severe threats and tornado threats, as the jet stream starts to push north, those strong upper level winds start to push further north, that starts to take the main storm track away from us. But it's going to take a little while. And we've been kind of waiting on this pattern to set up for the last week or two, and it's just not quite there yet. So that will be what we're watching for as we head into next week. So again, that's kind of the upper level component. Now there will be still instability to work with, one of many ingredients, right, for severe weather formation. I showed you the upper level portion of that to show you why we're hopeful that these next few storm chances, late Wednesday and Thursday morning, Saturday night and Sunday morning, hopefully won't be too conducive for tornadic threats. We'll still have to watch it closely, but some damaging wind potential. That's at the upper levels. There will be some instability to work with at the surface. I mentioned this time of year, as we get from late spring and early summer, more days than not, there is instability in the atmosphere, the warmth and humidity in the atmosphere. That doesn't always mean thunderstorms are going to form. Late Wednesday night, as that next storm complex starts to approach us, it will have some instability to kind of feed off of. So that's why we do think that there will be some of those storms Wednesday night, Thursday morning that could be strong to severe. We kind of stabilize things Thursday as that storm complex pushes to the south. And it still looks like Friday looks very, very nice the way we're trending right now. And then late Saturday, again Saturday night, into maybe early Sunday morning. Again, there's some instability in the atmosphere, lower levels of the atmosphere to work with for those storms to potentially become strong to severe. Again, on those severe weather risks, kind of the daily risks here, we don't have it, way up at the top end of the categories here. But again, this time of year, as you're well aware, we still have to monitor all of it. So Wednesday night into Thursday morning, Saturday night into early Sunday morning, severe risks do come up at least a little bit, so we'll have to keep a close eye on that. And here's kind of the overall rainfall chances, kind of the rain timeline here. As we go from the latter half of Wednesday into the first half of Thursday, it's a pretty good opportunity, at least the way it's trending right now. I'd say especially early Thursday morning. It may be the most likely time frame that those storms come rolling across eastern Oklahoma and southeast Kansas. And then with any luck, by the second half of Thursday, that's moved away, we're quieting down. And it still appears that Friday and a good portion of Saturday, as we head into the upcoming weekend, are in good shape, certainly better shape than we were weather-wise over Memorial Day weekend. But you can see right at the tail end of that rain storm timeline. Saturday night and early Sunday morning, again, having to keep a close eye on those storm chances. Back to what we've got for the next few days here. Highs for today, for our Tuesday, and for also our Wednesday, below normal. In fact, significantly below normal. So if you like cooler weather, if you want to delay the summer heat as much as possible, you should be liking these temperatures here. And this is kind of the temperature trend that we're going to be on for at least the rest of the week. So highs for our Tuesday, 70 south of Tulsa, the Tulsa metro around 70 to the low 70s. That's going to depend on how much sunshine we see. I've got about 70 or so on the map north of Tulsa. I think there's going to be some spots north of Tulsa for our Tuesday that stay in the 60s for the afternoon hours because those clouds will be relatively thick. There's going to be some drizzle, some off and on light showers for our Tuesday. No thunderstorms to worry about, but particularly north of Tulsa, unseasonably cool. Normal high for this time of year as we head into the end of May. It's in the low to mid 80s. So we'll be well below that, for our Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I think, should be pretty darn good as well. A little warmer, but still below normal. Highs mostly in the mid 70s. Could push 80 in southeastern Oklahoma, and I think Wednesday should be mostly dry and mostly quiet before that storm complex we just discussed gets here Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. And then this is the temperature timeline, kind of the departure from normals. What this graphic is, I show it on air a lot, but in case you don't really know what this is or what the bars are, what the colors are. Essentially, that the bar right there in the middle that says normal, that white bar, that would be if every day was right there, that'd be normal high temperatures, which is in the low to mid 80s for this time of year. If it's above that, I'm Captain Obvious here, but just so you know what this means. If it goes above that, above normal temperatures, if you've got those little blue bars below it, means we're expecting below normal temperatures. And look where we are for the rest of the week. and this is high temperature specifically, several degrees below normal, at times 10 degrees or so below normal, especially for our Tuesday and also again for our Thursday. As we head towards the weekend, by Saturday and Sunday, and then early next week, temperatures kind of moderate back towards normal June values. Humidity will start to climb as well. Again, we get into June and the summertime feel starts to creep in a little bit more. But we're not seeing anything, I almost just dropped my clicker, I'm not seeing anything excessively hot anytime soon. But eventually, after we get through this kind of cooler stretch this week, I think next week and beyond, temperature-wise, it's going to start being, a little bit more typical for this time of year. So that's what we've got kind of coming our way over the next few days. So once again, if you've got any questions, comments, suggestions, always like to end with this. Feel free to shoot me a message about that as we wrap up episode 4 here of This Week in Weather, and we look forward to eventually some quieter weather because, boy, we've had a run of some pretty active conditions here recently. But once again, as we head towards the latter half of the week, Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, some storms expected. A few could be strong to severe. And also over the weekend, I think the weekend for the most part looks a lot better than Memorial Day weekend did from a weather-related standpoint. But Saturday night and Sunday morning, we may have to track some storms that could be strong to severe as well. And of course, as you know, we'll be here keeping you advised on that as those storms come rolling on in. All right, that's it for episode 4 of This Week in Weather. Thanks for joining me. I'm Meteorologist Stephen Nehrenz. Take care of each other. Hope you have a great day.